Xbox has plans for the future, and I have questions. Now, while this has not been anything officially confirmed by Microsoft themselves just yet, there was a report that dropped earlier this week from Corden of Windows Central, who has a pretty good track record of reporting on Xbox plans and activity, with the idea that there's going to be multiple bits of hardware coming out over the next couple years, which hardware is a bit of a contentious thing for Xbox the past couple years, because I think people have had a lot of questions of what exactly they're planning to do. There's been such a heavy focus on Xbox as a service platform. Lately, we've been seeing that in the form of the "This is an Xbox" ad campaign, where they emphasize that, any device that can play your Xbox games via Game Pass is technically an Xbox. You don't have to own the original first-party box for it to count. But there's a lot of people that, care about having that actual first-party hardware and would like to see that supported. And there hasn't been a lot of that. I mean, we got the Series X and Series S released in 2020, and there was a major push for those when they first released. But since then, they haven't released a revised version of those systems. There wasn't like a slim line or a Pro version made available. They haven't done a revision for the Pro controller or just even the main controller for a while just yet. Hardware has been something they've kind of backed off the last 5 years. And that, combined with the fact that Xbox has begun to do things like release their first-party games on other major platforms, including PlayStation, has just led to a lot of questions of whether or not Xbox is all in on still releasing their own first-party hardware. And at least based on this report, sounds like yes. Now, as always with this kind of stuff, this is not officially announced by Xbox themselves just yet, and even if it is accurate and correct, it does not mean that plans can't change as time goes by. But according to the report, we're going to be seeing 2 different major releases happening from Xbox in the nearish future, one happening later this year, and then a pair of devices releasing in 2027. Now, for the first release happening this year, it's going to be an Xbox-branded handheld. And the reason why I use the word branded there instead of just leaving at Xbox handheld is that it's actually not going to be a first-party device, but rather something that's being made in collaboration with another major manufacturer, potentially one who has already been dipping their feet in the PC handheld world, like, for instance, Asus or Lenovo. Now, while this is being made in collaboration and is not being made by Xbox firsthand, it is something that would apparently be identifiably Xbox, in that it's going to have the right button layout, it's going to have the right branding, there's going to be an Xbox button. But based on how this is sounding, and this is the same conjecture that Corden makes, it sounds like this might be something more along the lines of a PC handheld with Xbox branding, rather than something, say, having an Xbox-style OS that is dedicated to an Xbox experience. Which does make a lot of sense, but it does raise one very important question to me, which is how this device will help differentiate itself from the other options out there. I understand the idea of having the Xbox branding, of having the right buttons and everything, but if at the end of the day, this thing is just running Windows and it operates the same as a lot of other stuff out there, not the most exciting thing to me. I think the one thing I would love to see happen, and this is entirely speculation, but something I've talked about a lot when it comes to PC handhelds, particularly when they're running Windows, is that I really enjoy the idea of PC handhelds in general, but the ones that run Windows, while they offer a lot of power and versatility, run into the problem of the fact that Windows isn't really designed for handhelds in mind. And a lot of companies have gone out of their way to, add their own software to help bridge the gap as much as they possibly can, but it's not quite a complete solution and just more of a band-aid to the problem. And so something that I have been hoping to see, and this could potentially be a way of launching this, is Microsoft having their own alternate version of the Windows OS that is designed for handhelds in mind, prioritizing a handheld-friendly UI and experience that just makes more sense for that kind of platform. Now, potentially one of the benefits of this is that, other platforms could make use of this OS in the future, and that becomes the more mainline option for Windows PC handhelds. But having their own branded option as a way of kind of kickstarting that and announcing it and revealing it, I think could be really freaking cool. On the other hand, it could just be using stock Windows and just happen to have an Xbox button and branding, which sure gets the job done, especially if they have the right price and power balance, but I want something I think a little bit more interesting and exciting to have this tie-in really make an impact. Now, there is another reason why it makes sense for this immediate handheld to be something that is more along the lines of a PC handheld than a, straight up Xbox handheld. And that's the other plans that the article discusses, which is that in 2027, Xbox will be releasing their next new generation mainline system alongside a dedicated Xbox handheld. Now, the timeline for this does make a lot of sense. Most game generations lately we've been seeing happen somewhere around 7 to 8 years. And as crazy as it feels to talk about this, it has been almost that long now. These systems came out back in 2020. We're getting very close to the 5-year mark, and end of 2027 would mark 7 years later. So it makes sense to have that new stuff on the way. It just doesn't feel like it's been that long. And what's interesting about this idea is that it replaces the current lineup approach of the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S with something that is a direct descendant of the Series X, being the premium home console option that is going to be connected to your TV and give, the right amount of power for supporting the next generation of games, while the other device is probably, yes, lower in power by comparison, but rather than being the cheap, affordable option, is now a dedicated handheld, which is something that I personally love. I am primarily a handheld person, so more options out there for playing games on the go sounds great to me. But I have to admit, I do lightly lament the concept of losing the Series S. I realize it's a bit of a controversial system. Not everyone's been a big fan of it. There's been lots of debates and arguments about whether or not it is holding back certain games development because of the fact that they have to account for the lower power, which would still be true in this new scenario, having a handheld running the same library. But what I really think has been an underestimated strength of the Series S is because it is such a great option for just dipping your toes in the Xbox ecosystem. Having something where if you primarily play on Switch or on PlayStation and you want the option to play certain Xbox games that, maybe are not coming to other platforms, or you want the ability to leverage Game Pass, just having a cheaper, small, nice little all-digital console you can pick up, I think was really neat, which we would be losing out on that option by having this portable one, because while the ability to play on the go is wonderful, there is no way a handheld system like that is going to be coming in at the same price point the Series S currently is. I mean, even with Nintendo releasing the Switch 2, which we don't know the official price for yet, there has been plenty of speculation that's going to have a price bump compared to the regular Switch, getting as high as $400, maybe even above that potentially. And so Xbox having their own handheld option that is obviously going to be designed to have a healthy degree of power for that form factor is probably not going to be on the cheap side. That said, I do love me a handheld, and so the idea of having a, home console style experience on the go in a little handheld is definitely something that's very tempting. And now something else that Jez brings up that is based on comments Phil Spencer has made in the past that I think is also worth highlighting real quick is the idea of how the next Xbox is going to be blurring the lines even further between a home console and a gaming PC, primarily in the form of supporting other storefronts. Right now, when you buy an Xbox, you have access to the Xbox Marketplace. You're buying games for Xbox specifically. But something that Phil Spencer has talked about in the past is having things like the Steam Store available on Xbox, having other different launchers and their exclusive titles made available on Xbox hardware, effectively running like a pre-configured gaming PC with its own dedicated OS that just gives you a simple way of accessing all this different stuff. Which there's a part of me that's a little weirded out by the idea of, blurring the lines further between console and PC, but if it is all done in the right way in a simplistic enough manner that, keeps that Xbox branding alive, but also opens up the versatility of the system a lot more, especially if they can offer the kind of home console power at an affordable price point, which is one of the things that I think has kind of kept them alive versus PC gaming, that could be something very compelling, having that way larger library while at a competitive price. It would certainly be the kind of move that I think would give Xbox hardware an edge that they've honestly just been needing the last couple generations. I realize that in general, Xbox has been focusing more on the service side of things, and there's a whole lot of debate about how well or not that has been working out for them, but I think it is a push that's been working in terms of just bringing more games and more people into the Xbox ecosystem, however you want to define that, whether that is having a system or just at least accessing Game Pass or buying games that are published by them, especially now all the stuff from Activision Blizzard. But even then, while hardware may not be the sole focus, they probably want their hardware to be selling better than it is right now. I don't know, I personally find this strategy, if it is true and accurate, to be something that is very interesting to me personally. I love handhelds, and so having a pivot that emphasizes those, both with a PC option and with an actual like first-party Xbox option down the line, are things that I would like to see. Again, when it comes to the PC one, I would like to see how it differentiates itself from other options outside of just that branding. And if it does take any of those extra steps, that could be something very compelling. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. You know, is this something that you are excited about in concept? Do you even care about Xbox hardware at this point? Are you fine moving on past it alone? Let me know down below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button to let me know. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you all later.